T-Soft shoots it, deflected right in. Pietrangelo save rebound. Stastny stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie sparkly. Now that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Tendy Talk. I am your host Joe, better known as Washed Up Goalie on social media. This week it was a real treat to talk to the off-ice training guru Maria Mountain of Goalie Training Pro. But before I talk to Maria, let's take a short break. So Maria, thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you as a goalie. I've been following you for quite some time. So thanks for joining the podcast.
It's my pleasure. It's great to meet up with you. Whose jersey you got on there?
So for those listening, I know this episode will probably air sometime in October, but we are recording on September 11th. So I am wearing my FDNY hockey jersey.
Cool.
And I've got a Chicago Fire Department hockey team hat on because both teams are very near and dear to me. I have a former college teammate that plays on the FDNY team now. But my dad spent nearly 30 years on Chicago and responded to New York following the attacks. So it was a interesting situation at the time. My dad was the head of collapse rescue for the city of Chicago. So when that first building came down, I just knew he was going to New York, and I was right. I was at college at the time, and I remember the phone ringing that evening, the call I had been waiting for. It was the classic double ring from off campus. And usually when mom and dad called, because this was pre-cell phones, pre-social media, so you might talk to your mom and dad once a week if you were lucky. So it was usually a half hour, 45-minute phone call. And this one, it was, I answered, I said, hello. My dad said, I'm going to New York in the morning. And I said, I know. He didn't have to tell me. I knew. And he simply responded, I don't know when. And then there was a pause, and he said, or if I'll be home.
Yeah.
And then it was just, I love you. And that was all I could say back to him. And that was the phone call. But it was about 10, 12 days they spent out there. They literally slept on the sidewalk if they weren't digging on the rubble. And then they came home, and it's been interesting.
Yeah.
You know, being 9/11, the day we record, you being Canadian, I'm curious to know how it impacted, Canada as a nation. I know there was a small airport that wound up taking a lot of the international air traffic and just blew up in size for a few days for its population, and they were nothing but hospitable. But as Canadians, what was that day like for you guys?
Well, it was unbelievable. It's emotional.
Yeah.
And I'm Canadian, but I remember we were on a retreat. I worked at Fowler Kennedy Sport Medicine Clinic at the time, and we had a staff retreat at at the head physical therapist's cottage. And so we were, in that sort of workshopping and stuff all day long. And the phone rang at one point, and he went and answered it and came back, and he didn't say anything. And then just before we wrapped up, so probably 3 PM, he said, planes have hit the World Trade Centers in New York, and there's been, another crash at the Pentagon, and they think it was terrorism. And like at the time, and even listening to the radio, and because it was about a hour drive home, we were listening to the radio, and it's like, well, that's impossible. It's impossible. Like, what do you mean a plane flew into it? Like, a plane is flown into the Empire State Building and it didn't fall down. Like, so this, and it's like, this is worse than the attack on Pearl Harbor. It's like, I doubt it's worse than the attack on Pearl Harbor. And then, and then you get home and you see those images, and it's just like, so it was, I think it just, and I remember there was a conference, sport medicine conference, probably 3 weeks later. And, so there were guest speakers and from the States coming up to present, the ones that could make it. We had sort of on doors to businesses, like, we support you, we stand with you. And, they just said it meant a lot. But
yeah, and It's interesting because I've talked to a few people today, and with the current political climate, I think in both countries, um, there's a certain desire to go back to September 12th, when it didn't matter who you believed in, what color you were, who you voted for. We were just neighbors,
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
cared about
pulling
each other.
together. Yeah, yeah, it is. It's they say may you live in interesting times, and
Yeah.
we live in
Um,
interesting times.
Although I was reading something this morning. It was a fellow, he said he was born in 1980. And this struck me because I was born in 81. And he said, he was born in 1980 and the moon landing was 11 years before he was born. And it seemed so far in the past to him. And now he has a daughter who was born 11 years after the attacks, and how to him it's like yesterday. It's not
Yeah,
ancient history. So
yeah.
it really put things in perspective to me of, I was alive that close to the moon landing. It wasn't all that long ago in my lifetime.
I was born when they landed on the moon. My mother saw them land on the moon from the hospital.
Oh, crazy. How
Yeah,
fun.
well, it's funny because I saw a guy, a post today on Facebook too, referred to, well, I'm not one of the older generation who remember 9/11. The older
Well,
generation?
my son is 12 and he keeps referring to my youth as the olden days, and he's still not convinced that McDonald's was around when I was a kid. I, I had to pull up Wikipedia to prove to him that McDonald's has been around my whole life. In fact, it's been around almost the entire life of your grandparents as well, kid.
Yeah, actually, fun fact, I think the first McDonald's in Canada was in my hometown.
Oh, fun.
Mhm.
Fun. Well, let's get into some of the more, fun stuff, the hockey
Yeah.
side of things. The reason for this podcast, talking to other goalies. I've been following you for a while, and it was through In Goal that I learned of you. And I got interested to know more because I'm getting older in age as a beer leaguer, and sometimes the joints are a little sore in the morning. So, your stuff has been great of keeping me limber. I've always been naturally gifted in that I'm pretty flexible. I can still do the splits at 39 years old but there's also been times where I've had lower back issues, and following your programs has helped. So your profession is listed on the website, exercise physiologist. How did you get into that? And why?
Well, well, I got into exercise science because I like gym class, and and I like the gym teachers. And so when you discover that you can study at university, it's like that's a no-brainer. So that's sort of how I got on that general path, and then I finished my degree, and I didn't really want to be a high school teacher. I thought maybe to be a physical therapist, wasn't really sure. And then I thought, I'd love to design exercise programs for people who had, so this would have been, I finished my undergrad in 93. So personal training wasn't really a thing so much then. So, I had this new idea that, wow, what if we designed exercise programs for people's actual goals? At the time I worked in a gym, and I worked actually in like a musclehead gym. And, my job as a trainer was to show people how to use the machines. And there was one area, so there was the musclehead area, which nobody went into except the muscleheads. And then there was a little machine, like circuit, with the machines. And so my job as a trainer was to show people how to use the machine circuit.
Yep.
And so I had this, like light bulb moment. Like, what if like, say someone really liked tennis, and we designed an exercise program so they would play better tennis. So I got pretty excited about that. And I went to one of the big fitness clubs in London, and I applied for a job as a trainer, and I thought, I'm going to work my way up. And one day I'm going to be like a regional manager of this fitness chain. And
going to be the Michael Scott of the chain.
Exactly. Yeah, totally what it's going to be. So it was interviewing with the manager of the club, and shared my like $1 million idea that we were going to design exercise programs that actually help people achieve their goals. And she smiled and she said, you know, Maria, that's a really nice idea, but our business is selling memberships.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, you know, I get it. So pretty much the next day I applied to do my master's because I wanted to learn more about how the body worked. And so I did a master's in sport medicine, kinesiology, specializing in sport medicine and looking at rehab after knee surgery. And then that led me into a full-time job as an exercise specialist at the Fowler Kennedy Sport Medicine Clinic, working in rehab, where I got to help the athletes, the varsity athletes, because it was at the university, and athletes in the community get back to sport. And, you know, that sort of helped me formulate my philosophy for training, this inside out approach, and athletes were having good success. And so then, you know, it got to the point that our athletes didn't want to get discharged from physio because they wanted to keep coming in, like, working out. So, you know, I would train them in the back parking lot after work, you know, and stuff like that. So then I started my own business, and you know, it eventually evolved that into opening Revolution, which was that until this last September I sold it. But you know, that's you know, that's how I sort of got here.
Well, and that kind of makes sense as to how you started working with more athletes over time, and specifically hockey. In Canada, if you're going to work with athletes, you're going to work with hockey players. But it seems like you've focused on goalies. Why this gravitation towards us goalies, you know, and us weirdos, some might say?
Yeah, it's a valid question. It's so when I started the gym, and it was just me. So I was working, you know, from 6 a.m. till 8 or 9 at night. And really it kind of occurred to me, like, if I tore my ACL or something, I would have no income whatsoever. Like, if I couldn't be in here every day. And so I started a website, and I had good success training hockey players. I developed a reputation for it. So I started a website called Hockey Training Pro. And I created free content, just like I do now, but for skaters. And then every so often, because I always saw goaltending as like a completely different sport. Like, it's just so, and I was always wanted to be the goalie when we played road hockey. You know, there wasn't girls hockey when I was a kid, but there was road hockey, and I was always Ken Dryden. And so I would just do, like, you know, just applying again, like anatomy, physiology to goalie stuff. And then the goalies would be like, oh, this is amazing. Like, I tried this and I feel so much better. And then, so it had never occurred to me that no one is helping goalies.
Yep.
And even at the time, you know, this would have been maybe 15 years ago, like, even coaches that were mentors to me, coaches that I really respected, who had great reputations in the industry, would say, like, goalies don't need special training. They already think they're so special. You don't need to make them feel more special. Like that's just stupid. Like I literally had strength coaches that wouldn't even discuss the topic with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then maybe 8 years ago or 9 years ago, I just decided, you know what? I want my sandbox to be goalie training, and I'm going to play in there all the time. You know, and then just, last year I sold the gym so that I could spend more time in the sandbox. But I love goalies. I think the position is unlike anything in all of sport. And I think there are a lot of things we can do to help improve performance dramatically, but also reduce the risk of injury. And so that's my mission.
And I think your vision is starting to take hold too, because you're not seeing as many goalies get injured these days, because that thought process of we can't just throw the goalie in with the rest of the team for regular drills. And we've seen that on the ice, where for so long it was, okay, goalies are getting in line, you're doing the skating drills with us. You don't see that anymore. They say, all right, the goalies are going off, they're doing their own stuff now. We're starting to see that on the exercise side of things. You know, when I was in high school and college, it was, all right, go with the rest of the team. There's your workout. And we've learned goalies bulking up isn't probably the best thing for us. But my 6'2" defenseman, yeah, I want him to have some big biceps to protect me. Probably not good for me though. And I think your vision is slowly starting to take hold within the hockey community too. I mean, with goalies, we just latched on right away going, yeah, we're all for it. And I sometimes wonder if a guy like Dominic Hasek, when people saw how good he was, and then you see him out of his equipment and it didn't look like he had an ounce of muscle or fat on his body, but it was like, he might be okay. Maybe it's not the Anton Khudobin body style that we need to throw in the net all the time.
Yeah, it's such an interesting sport. I actually just did a video about training strategies for shorter goalies. And and one of the messages too is that you've got to do these things. You have to be, when they say athletic, well, like I don't think there's many like unathletic goalies playing at a high level, but because like I've worked with some professional football players too, like and like offensive linemen, and it's like that is a huge body and they are fast.
Yep.
So it's like there isn't going to be, I don't know that there are like any lumbering, blocking 6'4" goalies. They're going to be 6'4", like athletes.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's exciting and scary all at once. It's pretty cool.
You mentioned the height piece of goalies, and there are some NHL teams that won't even look at goalies if they're not 6'3", and I think that's ridiculous. Some of the greatest goalies to play the game, you got a guy like Mike Richter, John Van Beesbrook, Curtis Joseph. All of those guys were under 6 foot, and yeah, and those teams wouldn't look at any of these Hall of Fame caliber goalies. Some of them arguably the best of their time. I don't recall Patrick Waz or Marty Brodeurs, but I don't think they were 6'3" or taller either. I mean, think about that. These teams would pass on some of the greatest goalies to play the game just because of a height piece. It's crazy to me. So, you started structuring your program towards goalies because there was a need and an opportunity, and you liked playing goalie in street hockey, but you weren't playing ice hockey at the time. It wasn't until not that long ago you decided, hey, if I'm going to coach these goalies, I need to get myself out on the ice and learn to play. So that's been fun to watch on social media, your progression of being a, new learn to skate goalie to, I would say you're up there with the beer league goalie veterans where you're comfortable in net now. What's that been like? And why did you make that decision to get out on the ice and put yourself in front of the puck?
Well, and again, like I'm blessed because I grew up in a time when even the boys who played hockey, it wasn't like it is now. They might have had 1 or 2 practices in a game or something. So everyone played road hockey after school. Every day, everyone, until the streetlights came on. And then we had backyard rinks too. So, we all so I did know how to skate, and I had played some adult hockey, like as a defenseman, which was okay. Like I didn't mind it, but then, so I always sort of had that goalie gene. Like it's, like it just is kind of in you, and it's like, I kind of want to get the pads, and so I just went and bought all used stuff, used skates, used pads, used gloves, like everything used.
Yep.
And the glove and the blocker just stunk like it was so bad. But and I just had a blast. But so the reason I did it was really to feel, because I can apply the science to it, but there's always like, there's that one muscle that you miss that you don't even realize, so that's what I wanted to feel, what it felt like. What were the sticking points? What got the most tired? And so that's been super helpful. It's really changed how I approach training goalies. If you look at a video of mine from probably 4 years ago, I would always talk in terms of, and we're going to get a big, powerful push.
Yep.
Well, now that I can push without falling down, it's like if I do a big, powerful push, I'm a foot and a half, 2 feet right out of my crease.
Yep.
So it's like, so that's me. So we don't need big, powerful pushes. We need quick, powerful pushes at different ranges of motion. You know, pushing from here is fine, but we also have to develop the skill of pushing from here, you know, generating outer range power. So that's kind of how it evolved. Really just coming back to sort of a position I loved more as a scientist to start with. But yeah, we're not playing right now, but we play on Sundays with a great group, and it's so fun. I love it.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned that, you know, if we look at older videos, there's going to be a different message. Now that you've had a chance to put the pads on yourself and get to a point where, you know, you feel you're a fairly competent goaltender, what do you wish goalies knew as they were coming into a training session? You know, fresh-faced goalie hasn't trained with somebody before. What do you wish they knew going in so that they could maximize their training?
I wish they knew that mobility is not the same as flexibility. So stretching just to try to do the splits doesn't really translate onto the ice. And yeah, some people's hips can do the splits. Some people's hips cannot do the splits. So, you know, and nor do they need to. So I'd like them to understand that mobility is a combination of flexibility plus stability. It's what range of motion can I control? How far out can I reach, but then still pull myself back, have that strength to pull myself back. If I was going to pick one thing, that would be the one, and that's where it has to start. You know, you can't use your brute strength to stop a puck, really. You know, you need the speed and you need the movement and the stability and to arrive where you want to be balanced, so you're ready to make the save or ready to move to the next position. So yeah, I think especially young goalies, they want to lift heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Get strong, and you know, which I understand as well, and there is a place for that. They have to be strong and they're going to lift weights, but it has to start with mobility.
Absolutely. And that makes so much sense. Now, you work with goalies, like you said, younger goalies, you work with some pro goalies. What about the beer league goalie like myself who, you know, we've got our 9-to-5 day job. Most of us have our kids' activities we got to, you know, shuttle people around to, but we still want to do something to keep that mobility for as long as we can. What's the best thing we can do to keep that mobility as long as we can?
Yeah, and I think adult goalies have an idea in their mind of how much work it is. Like they almost see like, oh geez, I saw a thing that this pro guy, he trains for 4 hours a day, which I think is kind of crazy too. If a pro goalie's in the gym for 4 hours a day, there's something wrong. But you know, so they think, oh well, I don't have 4 hours to train, therefore I can't train. So I think the first message would be, it doesn't take that much, and you'll be surprised. So even if you did one set of the right program, you'd actually notice things like within a week, you'd notice changes. I think the best thing though they can do is work on mobility. And I'm not trying to plug anything, but I made an app that's called the Butterfly Challenge.
Yep.
And so it's just like a 14-day. It's like so simple, right? Like it's basically like, remember when we started reading and we read that book, like Fun with Dick and Jane?
Yep.
It's like the Fun with Dick and Jane version of like goalie specific mobility. But it improves your butterfly flare. Most people get sort of 2 to 4 inches wider butterfly flare in the 2 weeks. And they tell me like, my hips just feel so much looser. My hips aren't sore afterwards. So I think that's sort of, I mean, they can get a different mobility routine too, but working on mobility, specifically hip internal rotation, they will notice a difference on the ice.
Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned that program, because there's quite a few goalie specific Facebook groups I'm a member of, and at least once a week, you got a goalie coming in saying, hey, I'm coming back from injury, or I'm having issues here. What do you guys recommend? And if not the first, it's always the second response from another goalie is, you need to check out Maria,
Oh,
check out her stuff, and it's all of us older goalies have definitely taken notice. And a couple times guys and gals have said, hey, I've been doing this program for 2 weeks now or 3 weeks. And some of them have had the measurement of their butterfly flare, as you mentioned. And it's just a bunch of, at least the beer league goalies, we've caught on, and we're trying to share with others when they're wondering, what should we do? And it's like, you need to get on that program, because it's going to take those next morning aches and pains away.
Yeah.
Well, it may not take them away, but it'll minimize them.
Well, and that's the thing, like, because again, like, and it's so simple, and to even look at it, it's like, this is really simple. Like, or seriously, like, maybe I'll do it twice. Like, maybe I'll do it 4 times a day, and it's like, no. Like, and that's what I hope, actually. I hope that I can show goalies at all levels. And that's why I put out so much free stuff, too, is like, so that number one, they can use it and benefit, but also that they'll see, like, holy, I just did this and I made that much improvement. So what's next?
Right.
And keep improving. Because I think, when I get emails or posts on social, it's like, oh, well, now that I'm really old, I'm 36. It's like,
your life's just beginning.
I'm gonna be 36, like, simmer down, grandpa. Like, it's so, like, I hate when age is an excuse. And I even catch myself sometimes, like, a few years ago, I had some, like, back issues, like a little bulging disc thingy going on. And, I couldn't put my socks on in the morning without, like, leaning on the bed and, like, and you sort of think, like, oh, I'm 50 now. And it's like, no, like, that's not the reason you can't put on your socks. Figure it out.
Right. Yeah. It's, I started playing hockey in a time where my first set of equipment was brown deer hair filled pads, and we're learning to skate save. So, like, I've got the traditional old bad goalie knees, and this time of year when the season's starting to change, and I hate saying it, but here in Minnesota, the leaves are starting to change early this year and has us scared. But it's like, when the seasons change, it's a little longer to get going in the morning. And it's not because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to. It's just, that's how my body responds to the atmosphere around me. And I think once I've realized that, that's been a big change too, because it's not like, oh, I'm getting old. It's, no, the seasons are changing. I feel like my grandpa, like, it's going to rain today. Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like, it's respecting that, because it's not the same. It's because some adults too are like, well, my back was sore, so I started doing heavy deadlifts. Yeah. Like, no. Like, that's not going to fix, so it's respecting, and getting more recovery. Like, this probably the last 3 months, I've gone down to just doing 2 sets of my strength training. And it's like, you know what? I feel like my body recovers better when I just do 2 sets, even though in my brain, it's like, well, that's kind of soft, Maria. Like, come on, Maria, like, do 3. Like, you just need to be stronger.
Yep.
It's like, no, like, this feels good.
I've talked to other trainers. One of my former jobs, I worked at a small fitness franchise that was for people 50 and over, which was a really cool concept. But I was talking to our director of programming, and he was very much on the 2 sets is fine. It's not about how many reps, it's about the quality of the reps. And once you figure that out, we had some of our older club members that were in their 70s and 80s. They might only do 1 set of 12 reps, but that was one great set, and a lot better than the 3 sets that other people were doing in the club. And it was because of that they were in better shape.
Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah.
So, let's get back to you putting on the pads, and I can't even say learning the position, because you knew so much of it before you put the pads on, but learning to play it on the ice. What surprised you the most about being on the ice as a goalie?
Easily, what surprised me the most is just how exhausting recovering from the butterfly is. Like,
Yep.
so like butterfly recovery, and it's like my legs are crushed right
They're
now.
on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one. The other, I think, too, was I think I had discounted the static postures. So, for example, like it seems like when we play Sunday morning hockey, the puck will get down in the corner, maybe at or just below the goal line. So I'm at my post and I'm low in my legs, ready to push out, but I'm stuck there because they're dinking around with the puck in the boards, and that, like your legs start to,
It's like doing a 2-minute wall sit.
well, that's it. So like now in my programs, like one of the guys I train like online, one of the workouts was like a high intensity cardio bit, but then it was like a post hold, like, so just getting low in the legs in that position and holding for like 30 seconds. And they're like, oh, that, that's, but because that is a different type of energy system that goalies really, really need.
Yeah. And I think that's really what sets us apart from the skaters is they don't have that hold a position for a while. It's either standing around with their stick at the waist, which is usually what my defense does, even if there's somebody next to them, or skating,
Yeah.
full stride. And, it always bugs me when they say, oh, you guys don't do any skating back there. And I'm going to have to find the studies that have shown goalies do more skating in that little crease than a player does all game. And when I point that out to people, they're like, oh, I don't believe that one. And it's like, it's true. It's backed by science.
We had somebody that we skate with on Sunday was like, Maria, do you want us to just go out and do like 20 minutes of skating before we play so that you can get a workout too? Like, no.
Yeah. It's,
you put this on and skate around. Everyone should have to put on the gear and skate laps at least, just like,
yeah, it was always funny. I was skating with the junior team once, and they would have the team do skating drills, and there were a couple of us goalies, and they called it the Clydesdale line when we'd be coming down. And I always got excited when we'd be doing some of those skating drills, and I was passing my teammates, and it was like, yep, we can move with this stuff on, but you got to stop picking on us.
Yeah.
Let me go back to my notes here because I've kind of gone off script, which is, I love when I do that.
Yeah, I get excited and I start going a million directions.
No, I am too. That's what goalies do. That's part of the reason I put notes together so that I can try and, go one way or another if I'm struggling. So as you've put the pads on, you mentioned from the physical side, the static holding, what else has really surprised you about being a goalie?
I think like I'm very interested in the geometry of it, the depth management. I'm surprised at how bad I am at it.
And how it changes from rink to rink too.
I don't even know enough to know that. Like, yeah. So it just like, and so one of the guys that is a pretty good player used to play some junior, and he skates with us on Sundays. And so, he'll often shoot on me and warm up, and, he'll say like, like, I can see, and so, but learning that, probably I learned that at network goaltending, maybe like Thomas Magnuson, got out the lines, and it's just like, wow, that's, if you can learn that and really visualize it. So I'm not a super visual person either that way. So, but I think if you can learn that box control and really visualize it, I think that's just, and I don't know the young goalies learn that enough. So that's another thing that really, when I'm positioned properly, how much more the puck hits me.
Yep.
Which, it shouldn't be a shock, but it is, because where I line up is often not where I should be.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was a squirt, and there was a new goalie coach in town. I grew up in Chicago, and so there really weren't goalie coaches in the city of Chicago in the early to mid '90s, and this was just a uh, retired AHL goalie that had blown his knee out because he didn't stretch before practice. So he was very adamant about stretching
Yeah.
before we did anything and after we did anything. So that was something that was ingrained in me very young. But they tied together a bunch of skate laces, tied them to the edge of the post, and one of us would have to go in the net and we'd have to follow that box control. But then he put all of the other goalies behind the shooter so that we could see, okay, if you move back, look at how much room we have to shoot at.
Yeah.
If you move out, yeah, you've cut off the angle and we can't see the net, but look at how you've come out too far based on the geometry. And
Yeah.
I think it was good I learned that at that age, because otherwise I probably would have really messed up my game more than I already had.
Yeah.
But that's an important lesson, I think, for goalies to learn at any age. And there was a training aid for a while that clipped onto the post, and it clipped onto the post, and there's a little piece that clipped onto the shooter's blade, and it was just the strings. And as you moved, it
Yeah.
automatically went in and out. And I don't know why they don't still sell that, because it makes so much sense. And I go to the rink sometimes and see goalie coaches out there, and they've brought string or rope or something to recreate that. And
Yeah.
or now you're starting to see them bring the iPad out and just take the video, and they can show
Yeah.
it that way. But yeah, it to me, it was nice to have that physical string there, because then I could feel it on my arms. Okay, I've come out far enough. Or
That's
wait a
it.
minute, I don't feel it. Yeah, as they moved, it moved.
A thing that's really cool is because I bought that Sensorina Goalie
Yes.
Go, and so one of the features is you can turn on just the angle, or you can turn on the box control. So as
Oh,
you
cool.
move out, the box gets smaller as you move back. So for me, that's been good because I don't work a lot with a goalie coach, so I understand the concept, but I don't have the skill. So for me, that's been awesome to be practicing that skill.
Well, and as we move into beer league, it's not like we have 3-4 days a week of practice. I mean,
Yeah.
the last time I went to a practice was because I showed up to a summer game early last year, because I still have that feeling I need to be at a game an hour ahead of time. And there was a high school team on the ice, and they only had one goalie show up. So the coach said, "Hey, you want to get some shots?" And I was like, "Yeah, I used to like practice, actually."
Yeah.
And it was fun because I actually got to work on things I hadn't been able to do that in years. But so tell me more about the sensory arena, because I talked to Justin Goldman of the Goalie Guild last Friday, actually, and I completely forgot to ask him about that. So if I'm hearing you right, you can almost use it for your own one-on-one practice at home.
Yeah, so it's too bad you forgot to ask Justin, because he would have lit up even more than he already is. Like he's such a gift to the goalie world.
Yes.
But so I got it because I'm friends with Brian DeCord, and he was involved in it, and they did a presentation at the network goaltending. We had a virtual symposium this year that was awesome. And they did a presentation at that. Actually, it might have been at the Global Goaltending Retreat. I think it was at the virtual Global Goaltending Retreat that Justin hosts. But anyway, and it looked interesting, and I thought, I'd like to support Brian. Maybe I can use it myself to get better. And I think some of the goalies that I work with, they probably think it's kind of cool, like kind of fun and cool and different. And I'm always very serious about training. So I was like, this might be something that I can like giving a kid an iPad, like, here, okay, you did your work, play with this. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear the fighter jets overhead, but we were having an air show this weekend.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. But so I got it. I don't play video games. I had no interest in virtual reality. Like I wouldn't cross the street to try virtual reality. Like it's not my jam. So I put on the Oculus, and basically the home setting just for the Oculus is this like geodesic dome in Norway.
Mhm.
And you see shooting stars and northern lights, and if you walk over here you get closer to the fire, and you walk over like, and I was like, oh my god, like this is nuts, like this thing is crazy. Like I would just put this on and like pretend I lived in that place because it's so cool. And then I loaded up the Sensorina, and it was just like you know the sound when you go into an empty rink, and
Yes.
there's a sound, I can't describe it.
There's
It's
a
like,
sound and a smell.
yeah, it's like, this is the sound. And it was just, and then like, so there's a net behind you, and you can actually use it with a real net, but virtually there's a net behind you. And still, like, I've used it for hours and hours, but I still go to like lean on my net and think, oh yeah, Jesus, that's not real.
Yeah.
So it's, you can make the drills as simple or as advanced as you want. And it really is like, if I catch the puck off the inside of my blocker, the puck will go this way. It's not like, oh, you were close enough, oh, it went right into the corner. It knows.
I was wondering how accurate some of the progressions are, because we've all seen the highlights from Madden NFL or even NHL where you hit the guy and then they go flying into the stands. So that if I'm hearing you, it's very realistic. If you turn the wrists and guide the puck into the corner, the puck's going into the corner.
If I angle it down, it's going down. If I angle it up, it is not it is not a video game. It's really to the extent that some of the drills are like computer generated kind of skaters that are almost like pylons. It's not the best description, but some of the drills are like a live shooter. And so, the better goalies, not me, but the better goalies, like, they can practice reading the release off the blade of the stick.
Yep.
And, and it's cool. So a guy that I work with who's a pro goalie in Europe, he came down so we could do a little bit of work together. He's from the Toronto area. So I was like, hey, I want you to try this. I just gotten it, kind of thing. And I've used it a couple times and was blown away. But again, I'm not what I consider a goalie. So he put it on, and he's like, this is exactly what I feel when I'm on the ice. Like, this is what I'm looking at and seeing when I'm on the ice. And I said, because for me, I noticed when I do the stupid things that I do on the ice that lead to a goal, if I do those in Sensorina, I get scored on too. So I said, when you do the stupid things you do on the ice that get you scored on, do you find you're getting scored on here? He's like, yep. Like, it's so, and he was like, give me the link. Like, I'm getting one of these.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
How smooth are the animations? Are there any like little hiccups here or there? Or is it just nice and seamless where you wouldn't even know?
The animations are seamless. There's one hiccup that I've talked to them about, and they're working on. So you can hold the paddles. You can hold the paddles. So like, I can just hold them, like that.
Yeah.
And like the angle matters. Like, so if I hold them like this, that doesn't work, and when I look down, I see a glove and a blocker. But you can also, there's a attachment that you can put on your actual glove and blocker.
Yeah, I saw on Justin's Instagram video that it was real easy. He recommends if you've got an extra set sitting around, just leave them on there.
Yeah, and it's good. There's one hiccup with the blocker, because the Oculus, the headset, it kind of needs to see the sensor to kind of triangulate exactly where it is. So I think I sometimes, because I don't think everyone has this problem, but I think I do some funky things with my blocker so that then the Oculus can't see my sensor, and so you get a floating blocker, like your blocker is hovering out here. You have to
Yeah.
kind of come back and pick it up. So it's not a big deal. It doesn't happen all the time, but it is something that they're like, oh yeah, like sometimes if it can't pick up a signal from the paddle, then
Interesting.
it'll float in space. But
Very cool. I'm going to have to look into one of those because I just love playing, and through quarantine that was a little difficult, but I think if I had one of those, I would have felt a little bit better. Who
yeah,
knows?
like no, I think yeah, seriously, like it's not a toy. Like it's not going to replace your goalie coach either.
No.
You're still going to need to work and get feedback, but then in between, it's like, okay, I'm thinking about, keeping my hands in front of me or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we got to talk about that. Because like I said, I forgot to ask Justin, which just gives me another reason to have him on for a second episode later on.
Totally. But you know what? It's probably good too, because Justin likes gaming. He loves tech. Like, so he's gonna love. Like, he's gonna love it. I don't like gaming. I'm not huge into that kind of a tech, and I can't believe it.
I'm more on the level of you in that I'll play a video game when my son asks me to, but those days are behind me. But then again, we grew up playing Super Mario on Nintendo, where if you died, your game was over. You didn't have 45 more chances.
Yeah.
There's a great YouTube channel out there where they give old tech to kids, and one of them was they gave them a Nintendo Entertainment Center, and they're playing the old video game Contra, and the person gets shot once and they're dead, and the game over. Is like, what is this? Like, I'm dead already? That's not how it's supposed to work. And it's like, no, if you wanted to beat a game, you had to sit there for hours and not die.
This is another generational thing. One year for Christmas, my parents got me this car driving game.
Yeah.
And it was like a little plastic car, like it would sit on the floor. It was a little plastic car and this, that. And then it was a scroll of paper.
Yes, I remember playing those.
And you steer the wheel of the car would just go and and I was probably, I don't know, 8 or 9, but you don't even clue in that this is exactly the same every time. You're just
hours
I am driving a car.
Yep, they were great for road trips. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that toy. Now you mentioned you put out a lot of great free content. It seems like every day. How much has this focus on putting content out changed your business model? You said for a long time you had a gym and you've sold that. Was that because you were able to make money because of your content, or tell me a little bit about the content creation and how much you actually put out?
Yeah. I put out a lot, and it is my mission is to help goalies anywhere in the world get better, stay healthier, even if they don't even have a penny to afford. Because I know that everyone's in a different situation. So it's yes, I have premium programs and beginner programs and free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy it. It's like how I sit down and have a conversation with goalies all over the world, and I've developed relationships, and I get to meet you, and now I know you better, and sometimes you meet a goalie who's sort of been in the sphere for years, and it's oh yeah, we've never actually met before, because you feel like you have such friends. So I think really what's changed, the volume has probably gone up a bit, but what's changed is I'm much more interested in putting out good quality, I should say better quality videos now with better sound. It used to kind of be rustic, let's say. And now it's I want this to be something that's sort of pleasant to watch, not just here's the drills,
I my day job is digital marketing. And so I'm very much in tune with that. What you're doing takes time. I understand that the editing is not the snap of a finger, that there's a lot more to it. So I'm actually impressed with how much you put out and how often you do because of that. But at the same time, in marketing, we say, if all you have is that iPhone, put that video out there. Doesn't matter how rustic it looks, it's better than nothing. Now, one thing I've noticed with all of your videos, everything you do, you approach it with so much energy. How much coffee do you drink in a day to get that energy?
I'm I'm actually like caffeine sensitive. So and so I mostly have to drink decaf coffee, or I get
Yeah.
like like I'm shaking right out of my skin if I don't. So I will have maybe a coffee a day. I really enjoy coffee actually, but it's like, yeah, like I will literally shake out of my skin. Well, figuratively, I suppose. Uh, but I like, so yeah, like I'm excited
Yeah,
about it. Like it's fun and it's
you can
exciting.
tell.
And yeah, so it's like I'm not always like so excited, but when I talk about goalie stuff, it excites me, and so away I go.
Well, it comes across in your videos, and I think that's what makes them so much fun to watch too. Because when I was in college, I would work our summer hockey camps, and I'm going to bring this up. I'm talking to my old college goalie coach on Tuesday. We used to make our goalies watch these videos with this goalie coach, and it was very monotone, and he's sitting in the locker room. He's like this, and they were so hard to watch because you just wanted to fall asleep. But your videos, I don't want to fall asleep because they're exciting. There's so much energy. It's like I could watch these for hours.
You should see some of the early ones. This is how you do a back squat.
Yeah.
First, you put the bar on your shoulders. Then you.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have to remember to ask Donnie about those old videos, and any goalie from our program, we always joke about them because we all worked the hockey camps and we had to watch these
Yeah.
things over and over and over again. It's like, oh my God.
That's so
um, so I want to be sensitive of time. One of the things I'm trying to do with everybody I talk to is I like to ask about 10 rapid fire questions
cool.
to close things out. Just a little bit of fun, but I think it also brings out some of the personality of the goalies. So the first one, you may not really have as many, but you've been to enough clinics and whatnot, you might. What's the craziest coaching moment you have witnessed? You know, a Mike Keenan like throwing sticks, just having a tirade. What's the craziest coaching moment you've been around?
Well, when you say that, the thing that pops into my head, so it's rapid fire. I'll tell you this is when I worked at the sport medicine clinic, I was the like the sideline trainer for this junior football team in my hometown. So if someone got injured, I would go out there, and
Yeah.
you know, half the time they'd be like, "I'm just tired." You know, like they lie there like they're dead, and you think, "Oh my God, they're dead," and they go out and they're like, "I'm just tired. I'm just taking a little rest here." But so I would always stay outside the locker room at the halftime, and if somebody needed something, I would go in or they would come out. But I was pretty sensitive. Like, these are high school age boys, and
Yep.
I don't want to be in that locker room. And so the coach, who was the night coach, Coach Darnell, is in there, and he is ripping on them, and he is cursing, and "Are you men?" You know, like just going nuts. And I'm like I'm scared. Like, I'm outside the I kind of want to go home now. And he comes out and he's like, "Oh, Maria, like, thanks so much. You're doing a great job. Like, I really appreciate it." And he's
Yeah.
like, you know, it's like when Tweety Bird turns into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde,
Yeah.
you know, it was kind of like that. So that probably for that, that's the craziest coaching moment.
I was coaching at the high school level for a while here in Minnesota, and there was a situation like that where we're walking to the locker room, and the head coach, he looks at me and the other assistant, he goes, "You guys wait out here." And he kicks the door open, and he just yelling. We heard him kick the garbage can and everything else. And he comes walking out, and he turns the corner, and he smiles, and he goes, "You think that'll get him going?" It did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes coaches know that's what the players need. Good coaches know when to yell and when to just be quiet. I I forget who I was talking to, but they said after a bad game, if the coach came in the locker room and didn't say anything, that scared them more than if he came in and started yelling, because they knew the next few days of practice were not going to be fun.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So what is your favorite goalie mask of all time?
I really like Carey Price's current
Okay.
mask, like the sort of muted red and gray.
Yeah.
I really like that. But maybe my favorite of all time would be like 1977 Ken Dryden Montreal.
Yeah, that is a great looking mask, and just the way, it's the red and blue circle. In fact, I've got a picture or a sticker of it on my water bottle here.
Yeah.
But the way it just had that little outline of the Canadiens logo, the subtlety of it was really good. I was a big fan of that one. So your all-time favorite rink to skate at?
We skated in an old rink in London called it used to be called Brookside, but it's one of those like dome one, like I like that rink.
Yeah, it's always funny. A lot of people I talk to, it's either some pro rink they've skated in, or it's those little old rinks that have so much character, and I like those ones with character. So this next one is an interesting one. What's your favorite stick that you've used while playing?
I'm gonna go old school, but my mother's parents were Greek, so I had a yaya growing up with my Greek grandmother, and she bought me my first ever, because when we play road hockey, you just use the Howie Meeker, like your player stick, which is your goalie stick. She bought me at the Canadian Tire a wooden Sherwood goalie stick, and that was just like, are you kidding me right now? Like, wow.
I appreciate that Sherwood is still making the wooden goalie sticks for folks like myself who, one, I'm not going to spend $300 on a goalie stick. I just can't do it. And two, I don't like the sticks that are that darn light. My first goalie stick that I bought was a Titan, and that thing, my goalie coach called it a log. It was the heaviest stick I've used my entire playing days, and I had that as a squirt and peewee, and it was, but it's like, I need to feel like I got something there, and these composites are just so darn light that, to me, it doesn't work. I can skip over this next one, but you might have one, because you said you played a lot of road hockey and pond hockey. What's your favorite youth hockey memory?
My favorite youth hockey memory for sure would be, I remember we were playing road hockey, and you're always playing game 7 in Stanley.
Yeah.
But we would actually time it and keep score. And so the ball came to me, and I scooped it up with my baseball glove and tossed it and hit it with my paddle. And it went the length of the driveway and scored a goal, just like buzzer beater, scored a goal in the Stanley Cup for the Montreal Canadiens. So
fun.
That would probably be my best memory.
Now, the next question always I shouldn't say always, because I think you're the 5th goalie I've talked to in this young fledgling podcast, but each person I've talked to kind of chuckles when I ask it. What's the best chirp you've heard on the ice or in the locker room?
We don't chirp a lot on Sunday hockey. I might be the first person who doesn't have a good. I know there are ones, but I can't think of what they are. I probably just keep my head down because I'm worried it'll be about me.
The last fellow I talked to, we were both talking, and we said, some of the best chirps we've heard, they're not derogatory or anything in any way. It's just they're so random and like catch you by surprise. It's like, wait, what did you just say? That's almost what makes them such a good chirp. It reminds me of the Mighty Ducks 3 when Kenny Wu's trying to learn how to trash talk, and he shouts over the other team, the Blake Bears, and he goes, "Hey, number 13, you're not so good at hockey." And the other guys are like, what?
Yeah, I know there are ones, but I just can't. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't think of any.
So you've reached the ranks where, you play beer league hockey. What is the worst post game beer you've been offered?
We don't actually have beer because we play Sunday morning first thing. So we just go like we play at 7:30 in the morning on Sundays, and
And then
everyone just goes home to do their chores. But I do remember um, we did it was like an adult learn to play hockey. So it was when
yeah,
I was still like skating, and so I did it, and then my friend's wife did it, and so there were probably like 5 or 6 women in this thing, and we had full-time jobs. We were, probably 35 or something like that, and it was the last week of this adult hockey skills 12-week session or whatever, and so that this one of the girls like, what kind of beer do you like? I'm bringing beers for the last week. And it's the same thing, like this is at 7:30 in the morning, and it's like, my friend's wife's like, I gotta drive my kids to school after this. It's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I don't
oh,
need a
funny.
beer. Yeah.
I was talking to Dustin Smith for my first episode, and he's from Nashville. And so I asked him that question, and he started laughing. He goes, well, I came up to Minnesota for a skate in the wintertime, and they had beers in the parking lot afterwards in the winter. That was the worst one I've had.
It'd be cold anyway.
Yeah, I said, well, that's how we do it here. If the rink doesn't let you have it in the locker room, which most of the rinks in Minnesota do allow it, actually.
Really?
You that don't, there's one that has a bar connected to the curling club next door, so they prefer you go there for your post game beers, so they don't allow it in the locker room. But for the most part, if you're respectful and make sure they all find their way to the garbage can afterwards, they allow it. So this sometimes is a polarizing question for goalies and hockey players in general. When you tape your stick, is it heel to toe or toe to heel?
Heel to toe. Absolutely.
So far, only one goalie I've talked to has done toe to heel, and I still can't understand why they do it that way.
How do you trim off the end and make it nice?
Well, my thing is, if I'm going to mess up my tape job, it's going to be going over that heel. And it's a lot easier to take it all off if there's only that much to take off than if I've gotten to the end and now I got to start all over. So
I don't go over my heel.
Oh, okay.
I stop like that far away.
Well, I think I started taping the heel in my younger playing days because I was using wood sticks, and the heel is where it just absorbed the water like a sponge, and that's where it would start to peel apart. So you almost had to. The newer sticks you don't. So I think I do out of habit still.
Yeah. If it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at a guy like Dominic Hasek, who used to tape it darn near halfway up the paddle, and it worked for him.
Yeah.
What's your favorite number to wear?
31.
Okay. After Carey Price, I'm guessing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the backup would be 29, but 31.
I was going to say, at this point, I would have guessed Ken Dryden, but they both make sense.
Mm-hmm.
In the last question, any advice you have for younger goalies?
It's a lot easier to put in the work if you love the game.
Yeah.
And that should be, you should be playing because you love it. And it always bothers me a little bit when I hear a young goalie say, well, I want to prove people wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? There's a lot of people who believe in you too. So why not work to prove the people who believe in you right? To prove to yourself. The only person you have to prove anything to is yourself. So, do the work because you love the game and because you want to see how good you can be. I think that would be the biggest message.
Absolutely. And that's a great message. I think a lot of younger goalies need to hear, but also their parents.
Yeah. Like, it's supposed to be fun. Like that's why you should play, because it's fun.
Yep, exactly. That's why I did play and I still play.
Yeah.
A lot of my teammates from high school, they don't play anymore. And if I look back at it, I could say, well, they liked the sport, but they didn't have that love that I clearly had at that point in time. It was the only thing I ever thought about. So
like they were putting in that work because they wanted to get to this level, or
Yep.
and then when they didn't get to that level, it's like, well, then I'm not going to play hockey anymore.
Yep. Exactly.
Whereas, yeah, if you love it, it's like, we get to play hockey,
Yep.
which is amazing.
Yeah, every time I go to the rink now, it's because I love the game. In fact, this summer, the group I was skating with is called For the Love of Puck. They're working on a documentary about people who just love the game of hockey. But it was just a fun group because we're all there for the same reason. We love the game of hockey. It's
and like, what an amazing sport. And I'll get emails from goalies that are like, I'm 78 years old and I'm still playing. And like, if you play football, you can't play football till, when you're 50, 60 years old. Like, but hockey, you can play for so long.
Well, here in Minnesota, we had a fellow, Mark Surdich, up in Duluth, and he just passed away. He was 99 years old, playing hockey till the week he died. Not only that, but he had a fantastic handlebar mustache to go with it. And he was skating 3 days a week up until he died. What other sport?
I'll be so lucky. Yeah.
You can't do that with golf. You can't do that with tennis.
Yeah.
No, but if hockey keeps you young.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
So, well, Maria, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been an awesome discussion. I've been following you for quite some time. And as I mentioned, I've followed some of your programs when I've either been injured or trying to prevent injury, and they work. So all you young goalies, all you beer leaguers that might be listening, you need to check Maria out and listen to what she has to say, because you know what you're talking about. There's a reason, the goalies in the know turn to you.
Yeah, like it works. So that, it just, but you have to take action and just start simple, and then you'll see, like, oh, actually, yeah, it does work. And I'm going to stop more pucks. And when I stop more pucks, I have more fun. And so it's been great chatting with you. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you. I so enjoyed talking to Maria, and I think we could have kept talking for quite a bit longer. It doesn't matter your age or skill level, you need to check out Maria's different training programs at goalietrainingpro.com. They will help keep you on the ice and feeling good after every skate. Be sure to follow Maria on Instagram and Twitter by searching @goalietraining. I'll have links to both her social presence and website in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Simply search for Washed Up Goalie and I'll pop up. Visit washedupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey highlight videos, and all podcast episodes. I need to give a big thank you to the great hockey band, the Zambonis, for allowing me to use their music on my podcast. You can download their music on iTunes or listen to them wherever you stream your music. I'm also working on lining up other goalies to talk to. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washedupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. And let's not forget, if you're a brand who wants to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you and work something out. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's a quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.
Get on the train that takes me away. Not gonna see you for a while. Why? It's an away game. It's an away game.